So what I'm doing today, as I said, I'm changing the oil in this 5-horse Honda GC motor. And man, I'm terrible on these small engines, I have to admit. I try and take care of all the bigger diesel stuff and everything, but you know what? These little motors here, these small engines, I just tend to completely ignore them. And I have, like, completely ignored these things. I run the log splitter, not only me, other people have used this log splitter over the years, and I don't think I've ever changed the oil in this. And if I did, it would have been many seasons, years ago, absolute years ago. We're not talking 1 or 2 or 5 years. We're talking like 10 or 12 or 15 years. I never change the oil in this Honda. I just run this thing and run it and run it. I've opened it up and checked the oil, the level, and then I just run it. And meanwhile, you should probably change it once a year. I've been so neglectful on this, and I got a bunch of videos I'm going to do on my smaller engines on these. And these videos are basically what I'm shooting now is everything you shouldn't do with a small engine. I've done it all. Pure neglect. And yeah, I've blown the air filter out, but that's the original air filter, probably 20 years old. And I don't even know how old the oil is, so we're going to change it. But today we're going to use a different form of changing the oil in this, because this one here, it's got a messy little drain plug down here on the side of the motor, and it's going to run all over, and I just don't feel like fooling with that. So we're going to do something. We're going to use something else, and these things work excellent. I don't know if you guys have ever used them. These vacuum/suction oil evacuators for any place that's hard to get oil out of. You can actually shove these down the dipstick of a motor and suck your oil right out, and they work good. And they have their pros and their cons like anything. But we're going to give this thing a go. So all you do is take out your dipstick. And I haven't used this fluid evacuator for so long, several years. And we're going to try it. And you can see, look, the oil's coming right up the line, as you guys can tell, right there. She's drawing out that warm oil, and you just pump. And you create a vacuum in here while you're pumping. And you only pump for so long. And that's it. You just leave it set. And you can hear it. And you can see the level on the oil sump. It's going to go up as it pulls the oil right out of that Honda motor. They're just convenient, and they're clean. That's what's nice about them. You don't have to... So it's still drawn on that same vacuum I just created. And they're just very handy. Especially when it comes to cleanliness. So, that's how that thing works. Right there. Now there's going to be guys... I know the first thing a lot of backyard mechanics or guys that talk about oil or oil changes are going to say, because I said the exact same thing. They said, well, if you're sucking it out through the dipstick hole or the fill port, you're never going to get the sludge in the bottom of the oil pan to wash out with the hot oil when it goes into your drip tray. No doubt about it. That's just a fact. But guess what? It's going to take a long time of pure neglect to have that much sludge in there gathering in the bottom of your oil pan before you ever have to worry about that. If you change your, I'll bet you, this is just my theory, I'll bet if you change your oil on a regular basis in anything, use good oil, run it at optimum temperature, I'll bet you if you regularly change your oil, you would never have to worry about pulling out your drain plug and emptying it through the pan. That's just my opinion, because if you change it on a regular basis and you run it at engine temperature, you get almost no deposits whatsoever. You get very little. But anyway, that's just my opinion, you know what? And that's just how I think. But anyway, because most of my equipment here I don't use this. I use this for smaller engines. I just have quite a few times. But for my big diesel stuff, naturally, this is too small, number one. And number two, I get right underneath the machine with a big pan and I just drain the oil. But for these little guys, if you don't want to make a mess and you want simplicity on a small engine, you can shove this tube right down too. Like I say, right there in the dipstick hole, and even on the dipstick of a riding lawnmower or anything, if this tube will fit down there, you can stick it inside and you can draw your oil out. It works excellent. And you can see and you'll see the hose start jump. See, we got it. There we go. It's running out of oil. That thing works excellent. No muss, no fuss. Just do her up. And you know what? You can always pump it a little more. Create a little more vacuum. And you can always move this hose around a little bit. And this one's called Maint-Evac. If you look, it's called Maint-Evac Fluid Evacuator MV7400. And it was not cheap, mind you. I think that thing was $150 Canadian. So again, it's $150 Canadian, but you guys in the States can probably get it for $39.99. With a hint of sarcasm there. Because we are kind of sheepish and we'll just pay anything. So in the end, as you guys can see, it's just a really clean way to pull the oil out of your engine. If you don't want to crawl around in your back or whatever, oil pan, dirty rags, everything, I do it all different ways. Okay, so there you go. We've pretty much sucked all the oil out of that little Honda. And I can tell you that oil, no shit, is at least 15 years old. I know that. That's 15-year-old oil in there. And that's all there is to it, you guys. And there you go. There's the oil out of that Honda right there. Maint-Evac oil evacuator right there. And you can see it's probably got a liter of oil in there. And dirty oil. And there you go. And there's your hose right there. You pop it out. It's got an O-ring. You can see right here, it's got an O-ring seal around there to keep that vacuum without sucking atmospheric air in from the outside. So it makes a perfect seal in here. And I can't say enough about these things. That's it. The oil's out of the Honda. It's just that simple. And then you can see it's got a pour spout right here, a little tiny pour spout. You just go now and dump it in your waste oil tote or whatever. It's over. Changing oil right there is the end of the run for that thing. So what I'm doing is cleaning up this log splitter too. Not only am I changing the oil, but I'm WD-40ing linkages, the throttle on here, and anything that moves. I haven't touched this thing for so many years, it's pretty pathetic really on my part. And actually, oh man, shame on me again. It says, keep the oil up, because here's your axle on this. Right there, your axle where your wheels are mounted right there. That's actually your oil reservoir. That's your hydraulic oil reservoir. And it says keep the oil on this within 1 inch of the fill plug, the top. So right here's the fill plug. Oh, this is just pathetic for me. I can't help it. And it says keep the oil about 1 inch down at the maximum. That's the lowest point they want you to do. Anyway, I have no idea where the oil went over the last 15 or 18 years, but she went somewhere. It just atmospherically disappeared. Who knows? But anyway, through small leaks or whatever. But anyway, I just checked the fluid, and I put Dexron 2 in there. It says you can put AW10 or Dexron Mercon, whatever, hydraulic transmission. So I use Dexron in here. Well, let me tell you, she's at least a third empty, this tank. It's only 2/3 full and a third empty. So yeah, I haven't been doing too much right with this thing. Just been running the hell out of it for the last many years. And I've lent it out on several occasions too. So anyway, it's way out of control. So that's that. You guys see this. And if you want to do a fairly clean job, get yourself one of these. They're handy. And like I say, on a small engine, really any engine, if you run it up to temperature and everything, you don't have to worry about sludge gathering in the bottom of your oil pan, really. That's so minimalistic, but that's just the way it is. And I'm doing some maintenance too out there because I got my new oil tank set up. There's my new waste oil tank. For now, I just threw it on those 8x8 cedars, screwed it down, and there's 205 liters of waste oil right there. I put the pump on last night. I've got a hand pump on there, so I have to hand pump 205 liters of waste oil into this bulk tank, and I want this drum cleaned out. So now I'm on an oil change mission that I should have been on a long time ago in these motors. And I got another video already out. We're editing it, and that's quite the video too. I've got a 16 horse twin Bobcat welder back there that it's been sitting forever. It quit over 15 years ago down at my other house, and I never used it. I had an arc welder. The gas welder just died on me one day, so I threw it in the corner of the garage down there, and it just got piled with junk. It's never moved. Wait till you see that video. You want to see smelly, corroded, rotten gas. It's a pretty good video too, actually, on what not to do. But anyway, that's what I'm working on today in the shop. So I'm going to put 10W30 in this motor, and just a good all-purpose oil for these small engines, and we'll go from there. Okay. All right. So we'll put some oil in that thing, and what I'm going to run in there is just 10W40. I got an open can of 1040, so I'm going to put 1040 in there. I'm only using 1040 because I have 1040, and it's already open. 1040, 1030, who cares? I don't know how much oil this thing takes. I'm thinking around 1 liter. Looking at that, around 1 liter, I'm guessing. Hopefully I don't wreck this engine putting clean oil in it. It's not used to clean oil. Yeah, I think that's a good title for these videos in the next 3 or 4 videos on these small engines. Small engine negligence videos. Because I'm guilty. I guess if we were down in Florida or somewhere warm, constant warm or anything, that's where you can run, I guess, your SAE straight up 30 oils, 30 weight oils versus the 10Ws up here in northeastern Ontario. You get such a deviation in temperature swings between winter and summer. And let's face it, with a log splitter, you could be splitting wood in the summer, the spring, the winter, any time of the year. Doesn't matter. So we're running Castrol, 1030 Castrol, conventional motor oil. And as you can tell, it's been around for a while. Look at how dirty that jug is. But that's just the way it is. All right, let's see where we are. All right, that's good for the oil. I'll show you something else too. I almost got to hang my head low. I almost can't admit that I've done this. I'm hanging my head so low. Never change that. I've never changed that. I've never changed that 20 micron filter since I've owned this machine brand new. And I bought my first house in 1996. So this machine probably came early in that period, around 97, probably the second year, because I burned firewood right away. And I know that I would buy this right away. So this is mid-90s, 20 micron canister style screw-on filter right there. Never changed it. That has never ever been off that machine. So, yeah, shame on me. But that's just the way it goes sometimes. Oh, another thing I was working on today in the shop. That's another handy tool. Just throw that in there. Beside that fluid evacuator I showed you guys there and how it works. Any plastic oil container right here with all your graduations on there, right? 4 liter, 3.5, 3. This will hold 4.5 liters of oil, this jug. So it's always handy, you know, to meter your oil out into this, and you know exactly how much you're getting. The graduations are on there, and they're on there in quarts, and they're on there in liters. That's just a handy tool. If you know you got to put exactly 1 liter of oil in something, or 2.5 liters, you just fill it up, pour it in, you know exactly what you're getting. But I was working on this morning. This is a vintage oil dispensing pump. This came out of heavy industry. Many. This, I'm going to say, well, a long time ago, but this pump is probably, it's got to be from the 40s, 50s, I don't know, somewhere around there. It's really old. And it says right on it here, Service Station Equipment Company Limited. It's old and it's heavy duty, and it's got the 2-inch bung thread there and the 1.5 inches underneath it. And it is quite a neat little pump, and it actually works good. And what happens is you fill your container. Well, you open this up, put your container, and you fill it, but it only dispenses basically what's in the container right here. That's the downfall of this pump. And I'll assume that's like a quart or a liter, whatever. And that's the problem with that pump. It only dispenses one of those at a time. But anyway, it's kind of neat because when you're done dispensing, if you did run your container over, you had a leak, it comes down, out the drip tray, down the drip tray, into the casting, and it runs down the column, which in turn is already inside your barrel. So you screw this in the barrel, and it's hollow between that 1.5 inch thread and that pipe. So the oil comes in right in the casting, drains right down the column, back to tank, and it's hollow right in here. You see that pipe wiggling? That's hollow in there, and that's hollow casting all the way up that goes from the drip tray. It's a pretty neat design, really. On it this morning, and I thought there was something wrong with it, but no. It's almost got like a rack and pinion on the inside working off of your pump, and the rack goes up and the rack goes down and the rack goes up as you're pumping. And it's a bit strange. Right there, you're pumping. You can hear it. That's it. That's all you get, and that will fill that, and then you dispense. You dispense your oil. And that's it. And then right there. And it only takes up that much oil at a time, though. And I thought, It's a nice pump, but it's kind of useless if you can only take a liter at a time out of a barrel, then you have to rewind and reset it. I would have figured continuous pumping right there. And that's it. It'll dispense about a quart at a time. And yeah, that come out of heavy industry, out of a machine shop and heavy industry. And it's old. It's all cast iron. And they sure do not make good quality stuff like this anymore. Heavy duty, cast iron. Everything's such good and heavy. Okay, you guys. That's it. I got that fresh 1040 in that Honda GC motor. And we'll just go from there. Thanks for tuning in. And I'm going to keep bringing in a few small pieces of equipment. We can have a look at them. And I'm going to see if I can't get a hydraulic filter for this thing too. I mean, I owe it to the machine. I got to get a 20 micron canister filter somewhere for that thing because that's not good. Okay, talk to you later. Thanks.